Boom time it is. Boom time it is, CJ Vogel. Yaheim Riley has committed to the Texas Longhorns on this Friday afternoon. I'm in Pensacola. I'm going to be at Trenton Henderson's spring game later. CJ, Yaheim Riley, a guy that you've been close to for a while. Kind of your thoughts on this commitment. I think we saw it coming. We wondered if it would come, when it would come, but we saw this commitment coming for the Longhorns.
Yeah, good get for Texas. You know, this is a true star nickel guy that Texas has been recruiting for a while. Of course, his offer came while he was still committed to Houston, and that offer from Texas changed a lot for his recruitment, as obviously evidenced by the commitment to the Longhorns. It didn't take long for him to say, hey, I want to stick close to home. Of course, Yaheim Riley was previously at Austin LBJ, same place that produced Andrew Makuba. He was actually coached by the current Texas Director of High School Relations, Jamal Finner, his freshman year, going into his freshman year before he took the job at the University of Texas. And now familiar with the program, with the coaching staff there. He's now at Austin Anderson and now a member of the 26 class. But Jerry's 6 foot, 185, 190 pounds right now. I've seen him work out plenty of times with band performance. Of course, the same guy that's produced Jahdae Barron, Andrew Makuba, Michael Taft, Jelani McDonald. He moves very well. And I think the football instincts are something that you see on tape. Obviously, a number of interceptions, a number of PBUs. He moves very well. And of course, that's kind of been the trait of what we've seen with all of these successful Texas defensive backs over the last few years. But a lot of versatility with what he could do as a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah, so it's the second for sure defensive back commitment in the last 7 days. Obviously, Hayward Howard a week ago, and Yaheim Riley today. Hayward Howard, the corner out of Edna Carr, who you saw in a spring game recently. And then you also had Jermaine Bishop committing earlier this week. Obviously could play corner, could play wide receiver, will definitely be involved in the return game. So that Texas defensive back class, we're going to label Bishop as an athlete here, starting to take shape. And it's pretty easy to see now. You know, you have Hayward Howard in the boat as a corner. You have Yaheim Riley as a nickel safety, whatever he ends up being. And then you have the other guys out there. I posted earlier today, right as I was checking in the hotel, the updated official visitors list that also has Devon Benjamin, the do-it-all DB from Westlake Village, Oaks Christian, has Justice Fitzpatrick, who I saw Wednesday, the do-it-all defensive back at St. Thomas Aquinas, little brother of Minka Fitzpatrick. And then you have Samari Matthews, the corner, who may be a slight lean to Texas over Clemson, South Carolina, also in their Florida State in the mix. So you kind of see this defensive back class and board taking shape. But I guess the thing I was going to ask you, CJ, because you watched the recent workout with Riley, what is it, you know, he works out with Bam, who also Michael Taft, Andrew Makuba, those guys work out for. What is it Bam said or kind of his strengths as a player right now?
Yeah, he plays with an edge, you know, right? He plays with that chip, and you see it evidenced in the tape. You know, we talk about the movement, we talk about the ball skills. That's great for defensive backs, but this is a guy that's going to come hit you, right? And 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot in that range, 185, 190 pounds. It's good size for a junior going into a senior year, but he plays bigger than that. I think that's been kind of the mantra that we've seen from Texas defensive backs. And I don't think Bam's out there teaching these guys to hit, to tackle, to do whatever. But you see his ability to run the alley right here in some run plays. We see that with Andrew Makuba. We've seen that with Jelani McDonald. Yes. We know Michael Taft can come up and lay the boom on a couple guys, and that's all coming from the safety spot. So, again, Bam is a movement guy. But all of a sudden, you see the kind of the list of guys that he's producing right now, and they're all ready to come up and hit you in the face as a safety. Yaheim Riley, very much, you can play him at box, you play him as a star, play him as a true center fielder at safety. A lot of versatility, and plays much larger than what he's listed at, Jerry.
And for those just tuning in, Yaheim Riley commits to the University of Texas, the 8th commitment for the Texas Longhorns in the 2026 class. Statistically on Riley, 75 tackles and 4 interceptions as a sophomore, a couple of fumble recoveries as well. Last year as a junior, CJ mentioned he played the last 2 years at LBJ, 80 tackles, 6 pass breakups, 3 INTs, maybe a fumble recovery that season as well. Recent offer, you know, he was Ole Miss offered April 26th. Vanderbilt was really trying to get that June 6th, get to that June 6th official visit date. Doesn't look like that'll happen. But a guy that a lot of colleges like, CJ, once they came in and saw the junior tape, once they started watching junior tape, then came by the school in December, January, he was a guy that kind of picked up a lot of steam. And let's say this, he's the first commitment for Kenodo Hudson as the Nichols coach. I think something to mention because this was one of the guys he targeted early on.
Yeah, it was his first offer as the Texas Nichols coach was Yaheim Riley. And, I spoke to him at a BAM training session earlier this spring saying, how does that feel? How does it feel to be the first offer of one of the Texas, defensive backs coaches? And he said, I'd be lying if it said it didn't add to what the Texas offer meant. So that certainly played a part in this one. Texas obviously prioritized him, got him to, kind of lay off of his Houston commitment at the moment and stuck with him. And Jerry, the big thing for me, and you were out there this afternoon in which Yaheim Riley was on campus, we saw the entire Texas staff escort him to his car after his visit, right? It was Coach Hudson, Coach Orfe. You look at Coach Nansen was out there. And of course, it was Coach Aquina that walked him all the way down to the street from the facility, leading him into his car. We didn't get to talk to him that day, but we did hear that the visit went well, that he had checked the boxes, that the mental makeup was there. And obviously we're watching the tape now. The kid can play some football. So Texas prioritized him. Kenodo Hudson from the very get-go prioritized him. And now his first offer turns into his first commit. And Yaheim Riley's a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah, and again, this is a key commitment because it's also Austin Syntex area for me. Yeah. Because a lot's been made of how many out-of-state official visitors Texas has, the focus on the DFW area. But one of the key things, Sark, I think, is in AJ Milwea, kind of one of the local recruiters in the Austin schools. What Sark has done, they've won some key recruitments in that Austin Syntex area. Obviously started with Connor Robertson, Ethan Burke, some of those guys. But Yaheim Riley, a guy that was committed to U of H, as you said, Baylor was trying to get in on him. Obviously, Ole Miss was trying to get in the visit. Vanderbilt had an official visit locked in with him. TCU had offered him and was trying to make a push as well. So your backyard, you do have to keep some of those guys home. And I think this was a big one for Texas once they decided, okay, this is a guy. And this says something to me because if you look at the defensive backs, okay, Texas liked Yaheim Riley so much, they moved on from Cameron Hamil. And we all think Cameron Hamil is a really talented player. They think Riley is a really talented player and a really good fit as well. So Texas is passing up on some really talented defensive backs, maybe not from the Syntex, not from the state of Texas, but for them to go with Yaheim Riley tells you how much they like Yaheim Riley as a player and as a fit at Texas.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because, Yaheim Riley is, all in all, a pretty soft-spoken kid, right? He's pretty quiet, and then you get to know him. And you see him in the workout sessions. You see him in a competitive atmosphere, and you see the flip switch. And you're like, okay, I like it. And, of course, you can't play in the box, Jerry, and not have that physical, competitive nature. To Justin Yarborough's question, will he play nickel or safety? He's been recruited through and through as a nickel.
Yeah.
And of course, that's where Kenodo Hudson coaches. Of course, that was his first offer. Now first commit, as I mentioned earlier. Nickel is the spot for Yaheim Riley to at least start his Texas career. And sticking on the nickel side, Jerry, I was down in New Orleans, former home of Wardell Mack. And there are some folks down there really excited to see what he could do this year for the Longhorns at that same spot.
No doubt about it. And look, I think that's the thing to remember is Texas wants the versatility of these guys. I watched Justice Fitzpatrick Wednesday, and look, he played nickel. He plays corner. He plays nickel. He'll even play some safety for STA, but really going to be a nickel in their 4-2-5. Devon Benjamin can be a corner, can be a nickel, can play safety.
They play everywhere.
To see a lot. He'll play everywhere. You're starting to see that. Yaheim Riley going to be recruited as a nickel, but that doesn't mean he'll play his entire career at nickel. Texas is really working to get these versatile guys with enough height and length in the secondary. One of the moves you're seeing, Rod Babers has talked about it. We've all touched on that. We think Texas wants to play a little bit more man, maybe a little more press at the corner spots, a little bit more man overall, mix and match that in to the scheme. The only way you're going to do that is if you have guys who are multiple. And I think that's where Texas is targeting in this 2026 class.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, this is a guy that's going to be in the middle of the field, right? Maybe not so much an outside corner, but you throw him in slot, you throw him as a box safety, you throw him as a center fielder. That's where he's going to make his hay. I know, Jerry, Rod Babers likes calling guys alley cats. You know, you run the alley, you make plays in the run support from a deep safety position. We're seeing a lot of that right now from Yaheim Riley. And it's not too often that you see a defensive back where most of his highlight reels are just straight tackles and run support. So that's a big takeaway for me. Texas fans, you're going to like him in run support. The physical style of play will certainly carry over.
And look, and if there's one thing Yaheim Riley watching Texas this year and knows from working out with Bam, Andrew Makuba took his game to another level physically in the SEC this year in his year at Texas. And Yaheim Riley, I think, is leaving high school. And you don't say, okay, that guy needs to take his game to another level physically. I think he already has that in high school. He's going to match the SEC physicality needed from the defensive back nickel position. I think that's one of his strengths, is that playing strength and that physicality on contact. I think he's leaving the high school ranks ready from a physicality mindset standpoint. So again, if you're tuning in right now, Yaheim Riley commits to Texas. It's the 8th commitment for the Texas Longhorns in the 2026 class. And it's been a run of defensive back / athletes in this class. Hayward Howard last Friday. You had Jermaine Bishop this week, who could play wide receiver, one of the best slot receivers in the country, could play corner. Would definitely play in the return game. And then you also have now Yaheim Riley. And again, those defensive backs still in the mix for Texas, which we really think Texas now narrows their focus, is Devon Benjamin out of Westlake Village Oaks Christian, scheduled to visit June 6th through 8th. Justice Fitzpatrick, the corner nickel do-it-all for St. Thomas Aquinas, younger brother of Mika Fitzpatrick, scheduled to be in June 20th. That's a schedule change, he told me Wednesday. He was originally on the books for June 13th, moved that to June 20th. Texas gets the last crack there. I think Georgia is a leader going into these visits. Then Samari Matthews, the corner out of Huff High in the Charlotte area, Cornelius, just north by Davidson University. Slight Texas lean over Clemson with South Carolina in the mix. FSU gets an official visit as well. So you see Texas kind of narrowing in here at the defensive back position, CJ, as we get closer to these June official visits, just 3 weeks away.
Yeah, it should be fun. Texas, of course, this entering that time, Jerry, in which they start to stack commitments, get the ball really rolling for each cycle. 4 in the month of May, 3 in the last week in terms of commitments for this 26 class. I would expect that number to continue to grow as we enter official visit season. It should be fun, and we'll have it all covered for you here at On Texas Football.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it. We just want to give you guys a quick live stream here to say boom for the announcement of Yaheim Riley to the Texas Longhorns. For ZJ Vogel, I'm Gerry Hamilton. And for Bobby Burton, one last thing to tell you, Yaheim Riley, hook 'em.